Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Insha'Allah ta'ala, I will be reciting verses 14 to 18 from chapter 49 of the Quran, Surah Al-Hujurat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم وإن تطيعوا الله ورسوله لا يلتكم إن الله غفور رحيم. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا وجاهدوا بأموالهم وأنفسهم في سبيل الله أولئك هم الصادقون. قل أتعلمون الله بدينكم والله يعلم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض والله بكل شيء عليم. يمنون عليك أن أسلموا قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان إن كنتم صادقين. إن الله يعلم غيب السماوات والأرض والله بصير بما تعملون.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the final evening, the final story time. Alhamdulillah, we have our dear Sheikh Shakur, someone who is a teacher by profession, someone who studied in Egypt. He's a personal teacher to myself and many brothers and sisters across the UK. So without further ado, I'll introduce our dear Sheikh Shakur.
الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. Inshallah, tonight we're going to look at a story about a man who was blessed by Allah in such a way that he would remember it for the rest of his life, and he would become an example of those who came after him or for those who came after him for centuries, to the point that we are going to remember him today. Yet in order to gain the blessing from Allah, he had to go through the most painful time and the lowest time in his life. It's a story about someone who thought he was going to be the protector and guardian of a beloved child of his. Yet what actually transpired and what actually happened was that his child was the savior and the one that caused him to become a person of paradise. So instead of protecting his child ended up becoming the one who saved him. So let us begin his story as he himself narrates it. So he begins by saying that he says, was an evil man at the time. And I used to abuse my position as a police officer, a policeman. And I used to do things that allowed me to benefit in my worldly life by taking the rights of others because of the authority and the position that I had. And not only that, but he says about himself that I used to drink alcohol and I used to not think about any of the consequences. I knew it was wrong, but I still did it. I didn't think much of the consequence and that it would lead to anything bad for me. And because I was enjoying life anyway, I wasn't really bothered.
Yeah, whatever.
And I carried on.
God,
And then he says, then Allah blessed me and I got married to a really good wife. And she looked after me so well.
yeah, whatever.
And then on top of that, Allah blessed me even more. He gave us a child, a daughter. And that daughter was so beloved to me, he says. I couldn't bear to be without her. And everything that she did as a small child gave me the greatest joy and bliss in my life. Her smile, her loving affection. She was my world. Not a day would go by when I went to work except that I would think of her, and I would have to return home so that I could see her time to time during the day. So this is how he remained. For 2 years, he enjoyed the company of his beloved daughter. And then he says, then when she was 2 years old, she died. That was the most terrible thing that could happen to me, and that was the worst time in my life. It was as if all the happiness and joy of my life had been ripped out of my heart. And the only thing I could live with at that point was grief, sadness, and sorrow. There was no happiness and joy in my life anymore. It had been stripped from my heart. Then he says, that night, it was the 15th of Sha'ban. The 15th of Sha'ban, this special night. And it was a Friday at the same time. And he remembered how his daughter used to prevent him from drinking alcohol, and she would spill it over him. And he would laugh and smile. And that was when she was alive, and now she was gone. So that night he says, I drank and I drank to get rid of the pain that I was feeling in my heart. Until, he says about himself, that I fell unconscious because I had drank so much. And then suddenly, I awoke and I knew it was the Day of Judgment. The earth had been destroyed because the trumpet had been blown by the angel Israfil. And everything had died. Everything had been destroyed. Then the people had risen from their graves. The sky was not as I knew it. The earth was not as I knew it. People were coming out of their graves. The earth was completely different without anything that I recognized. And the worst thing was, I was amongst the people. I was there. Then after a few moments, I heard the hissing of a snake behind me. And I turned round and I saw a huge snake the size of a dragon at full speed coming towards me. The shock made my heart leap from my chest as if it was going to jump out of my mouth. I couldn't help myself. Without thinking, I started to run. I was running like a madman, and I kept running past everyone, away from everyone. But the snake, the size of a dragon, and it seemed to get bigger and bigger, kept pursuing me. And I didn't know where to go. So as I was running in this mad state, in the distance, I saw a man standing by himself in bright white clothes. He looked like a star in the distance, so I ran towards him. And as I got closer and closer towards him, his appearance became even more brilliant. And then I started to shout out to him, "Help me, save me from the snake, it's going to devour me, it's going to kill me." I ran towards him, And as I got closer, I realized he was very weak. He was very frail. And I kept shouting at him, help me, save me from the snake. The man shouted back. He said, I'm too weak. The snake is too strong. I can't help you. But keep running. Keep running. Maybe you will find a deposit that will save you. So I continued to run. I ran past him and I was looking for somewhere to go. And the snake was pursuing me and getting closer and closer. And I saw a hill. So I thought if I go up to a higher level and go through the valleys, I will get up to a place where the snake can't reach me. So I ran towards there and I got up high. And when I got to the top, I was on the cliff's edge. The sight of a valley full of fire and the shock of it nearly made me fall in. But at that moment, a voice cried out and shouted, get away from there! That is not for you. The voice sounded familiar and it brought peace to my heart. So I moved away and quickly continued to run. And I was running like a madman again. And the snake had found my path again and was on my heels. And again I saw that brilliant star shining. And I ran towards it and I found the old man once again. And as I approached him, I shouted, help me, save me from the snake. Again he said to me, I'm too weak. And as I approached him, there was a beautiful smell around him. But I had to quickly run past him. He directed me to another hill. He said, go over there. Perhaps you will find your deposit that will save you from the snake. So I continued to run. And as I got towards this hill, not a big mountain, but a hill, I saw it was like nothing I had ever seen in my life before. It looked like it was made out of silver. And in the hill itself were pierced windows. And I quickly ran even faster. And as I got closer, I noticed that each of the windows had 2 gold panels. And then between the panels there were curtains. And there were so many windows. And I ran and I got closer and closer to the hill. The snake didn't stop. It was on my heels. And as I got close, a voice shouted out. And it said, lift the curtains and move the panels. And suddenly, the windows all opened. And there were faces beaming of light like the full moon, peering out of the windows. They were all looking at me. And then, one of them peeped out further. And she said, what is wrong with you all? His enemy is about to devour him. And all of you are just looking. I looked carefully. And I saw the face of my daughter. She leaped out of that window like an arrow shot from a bow. And she landed in front of me without any harm. Then with one hand, she took my hand, which I clung to with all my life. Then she raised her other hand towards the snake and she waved it away. Then she sat me down and she sat herself down in my lap and she said, reciting the verse of Allah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ألم يأن للذين آمنوا أن تخشع قلوبهم لذكر الله وما نزل من الحق. Has it not come time for the believers to give their hearts to the Quran and what Allah has revealed of the truth? I turned to her and said, how do you know the Quran? She said, we here know the Quran better than you people in the world. Then I asked her about what had been happening in my journey this night. I asked her, what's that snake that's been chasing me and wanted to devour me and kill me? She said, those are your evil and bad deeds. They are so strong, they are about to overtake you and cause you to enter the fire, so that you will not live nor die, you will have eternal pain. Then I asked her, who was that old man who looked so handsome that I was asking for help and kept saying to me I'm too weak? She said, those were your good deeds. Those were your good deeds that have become so weak that they can't help you anymore. Then I asked her, what about this hill and these faces? She said, these are the children of the Muslims who have passed away, who are waiting to be rejoined by their parents. Then she placed her right hand through my beard and she stroked it and recited the verse, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Has it not come time for the believers to surrender their hearts to the Quran and to what Allah has revealed of the truth? I woke up, and from that moment I mended my ways and I repented to Allah for all the evil that I had done. This is the story of the repentance of someone who became a great scholar. His name, Malik ibn Dinar. Every one of us goes through life and faces challenges and problems and difficulties. It's not only about COVID-19, but the challenges of life when you are living and you are healthy can be far more testing and far more difficult than actually a painful disease. Because in times of pain, when you're in need, you remember Allah. In times when you're enjoying life and you have everything and all the luxuries, we as human beings tend to forget Allah. In fact, we end up disobeying Him more than we obey Him. One of the other scholars, Ibrahim ibn Adham, when he was asked by this man, I've committed so many sins and I want to change. So what can I do to stop myself from disobeying Allah? So the final advice I want to finish with are these 5 points when shaitan comes to you. When times are difficult or when times are easy and suddenly you get these thoughts to do those things that you know are wrong, that you know Allah is going to be displeased with, but you're tempted. Ibrahim ibn Adham, he said, when you first encounter this thought, what you should say to yourself is, how can you eat from Allah's provision? What Allah has given you of food and drink, how can you take what Allah has given you if you're going to disobey Him? Then if that doesn't stop you, then ask yourself the second question. If you're going to disobey Allah, then disobey Him in a place that He doesn't own. Allah owns everything. There's no place you can go except that it is part of Allah's kingdom, what He owns. If that doesn't stop you, Then move to the next question and ask yourself, if you're going to disobey Allah, then disobey Him in a place that He can't see you. Then you'll remember that wherever you go, even if you were in the depths of the sea, surrounded by darkness, and there was nothing next to you, and you were covered in all of the darkness of the world, Allah would know where you are and would see every movement of every limb that you have. So there's nowhere you can go and nowhere you can hide. So if this doesn't stop you, then ask yourself the next question. When the angel of death comes to you, tell him, just give me a minute and let me do a good deed, to give some charity or pray or ask Allah to forgive me. Just wait a few moments and let me do this. But the angel of death will never wait, and he will very quickly dispatch your soul and send it to the next world, to the hereafter. Then if this doesn't stop you, then remember the final question that you should ask yourself. When the angels of the hellfire, they come to take you, tell them to wait. And tell them I don't want to go with you. And tell them I'm not going to go with you. They will never listen. And they will take you and drag you to that punishment. When the man heard these 5 steps, he said to Ibrahim ibn Adham, that's enough. I don't need to hear anymore. And what he did was he became this scholar's disciple and companion. He changed his ways and he was completely obedient to Allah. At the end of the day, every single one of us is traveling in this world, and we're on this journey of life. And the journey started when we were born. And the destination is to Allah. That's a guarantee. No one can change it and no one can stop it. No one knows when the destination will be reached. But the whole point of this life is to prepare. Every one of us is on this journey, and we need to help one another to get the best out of this journey, to make the most of our time so that when we meet Allah, we love to meet Him and that He loves to meet us. May Allah make us like the 2 men mentioned today, who realized their mistakes in this life, changed their ways, and became an example for us living hundreds of years after them. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك جزاكم الله خيرا.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for that beautiful story. We ask Allah that He gives tawfiq to take benefit from that story and to be like the Prophet and those who followed them in their footsteps. Ameen, ameen, ya Rab. My dear brothers and sisters, we're going to go straight over to our break for Maghrib, and then at Maghrib we're going to come back, inshallah, for our last lecture of this amazing online event.